Hello, Northwest. It's almost noon, and we're getting ready to read the rest of Chapter 8 in the Sea of Monsters. As you'll recall yesterday, our heroes, after a meeting with Hermes, summoned hippocampi, which are basically seahorses, and rode to the ship, which is called the Princess Andromeda. They went through the ship and they couldn't find anything. Um, and they were definitely getting a very bad feeling about things. In addition, Annabeth still seems to have real issues with Tyson that we have yet to understand what's going on. So, um, I hope everybody is well. I hope everybody is taking care of themselves. I'm gonna model good behavior. I should be washing my hands, but I don't have a sink in my office. Of course, I don't. All right, so there we go, nice and clean. Okay, so finally, my weariness got the best of me. I fell asleep and had my worst dream yet. I was standing in a cavern at the edge of an enormous pit. I knew the place too well, the entrance to Tartarus, and I recognized the cold laugh that echoed from the darkness below. If it isn't the young hero. The voice was like a knife blade scraping across stone. On his way to another great victory. I wanted to shout at Kronos to leave me alone. I wanted to draw Riptide and strike him down, but I couldn't move. And even if I could, how could I kill something that hadn't already been had already been destroyed, chopped to pieces, and cast into eternal darkness? Don't let me stop you, Titan said. Perhaps this time when you fail, you'll wonder if it's worthwhile slaving for the gods. How exactly has your father shown his appreciation lately? His laughter filled the cavern, and suddenly the scene changed. It was a different cave, Grover's bedroom prison in the Cyclops' lair. Grover was sitting at the loom on his soiled wedding dress, madly unraveling the threads of the unfinished bridal train. Honey pie! The monster shouted from behind the boulder. Grover yelped and began weaving the threads back together. The room shook as the boulder was pushed aside. Looming in the doorway was a Cyclops so huge he made Tyson look vertically challenged. He had jagged yellow teeth and gnarled hands as big as my whole body. He wore a faded purple t-shirt that said, World Sheep Expo 2001. He must have been at least 15 feet tall, but the most startling thing was his enormous milky eye, scarred and webbed with cataracts. If he wasn't completely blind, he had to be pretty darn close. What are you doing? The monster demanded. Nothing, Grover said in his falsetto voice. Just weaving my bridal train, as you can see. The Cyclops stuck one hand into the room and groped around until he found the loom. He pawed at the cloth. It hasn't gotten any longer. Oh, yes it has, dearest. See, I've added at least an inch. Too many delays, the monster bellowed. Then he sniffed the air. You smell good, like goats. Oh, Grover forced a weak giggle. Do you like it? It's a eau de chalet. I wore it just for you. Mmm, the Cyclops bared his pointed teeth. Good enough to eat. Oh, you're such a flirt. No more delays. But dear, I'm not done. Tomorrow. No, no, 10 more days. 5. Oh, well. 7 then, if you insist. 7. That is less than 5, right? Certainly. Oh, yes. The monster grumbled, still not happy with his deal, but he left Grover to his weaving and rolled the boulder back into place. Grover closed his eyes and took a shaky breath, trying to calm his nerves. Hurry, Percy, he muttered. Please, please, please. I woke to a ship's whistle and a voice on the intercom. Some guy with an Australian accent who sounded way too happy. Good morning, passengers. We'll be at sea all day today. Excellent weather for the poolside mambo party. Don't forget $1 million bingo in the Kraken Lounge at 1 o'clock, and for our special guests, disemboweling practice on the promenade. I sat up in bed. What did he say? Tyson groaned, still half asleep. He was lying face down on the couch. his feet so far over the edge they were in the bathroom. The happy man said, "Bowling practice?" I hope he was right, but then there was an urgent knock on the suite's interior door. Annabeth stuck her head in, her blonde hair in a rat's nest. Disemboweling practice? Once we were all dressed, we ventured onto the ship and were surprised to see other people. A dozen senior citizens were heading to breakfast. A dad was taking his kids to the pool for a morning swim. Crew members in crisp white uniforms strolled the deck, tipping their hats to the passengers. Nobody asked who we were. Nobody paid us much attention. But there was something wrong. As the family of swimmers passed us, the dad told his kids, "We're on a cruise. We are having fun." "Yes," his three kids said in unison, their expressions blank. "We are having a blast. We will swim in the pool." They wandered off. "Good morning," a crew member told us, his eyes glazed. "We are all enjoying ourselves aboard the Princess Andromeda. Have a nice day." He drifted away. "Percy, this is weird," Annabeth whispered. "They're all in some kind of trance." Then we passed a cafeteria and saw our first monster. It was a hellhound, a black mastiff with its front paws up on the buffet line and its muzzle buried in the scrambled eggs. It must have been young because it was still small compared to most, no bigger than a grizzly bear. Still, my blood turned cold. I'd almost been killed by one of those before. The weird thing was, a middle-aged couple was standing in the buffet line right behind the devil dog, patiently waiting for their turn for the eggs. They didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary. "Not hungry anymore." Before Annabeth and I could reply, a reptilian voice came from down the corridor. "6 more joined yesterday." Annabeth gestured frantically towards the nearest hiding place, the woman's room, and all three of us ducked inside. I was so freaked out it didn't even occur to me to be embarrassed. Something, or more like two somethings, slithered past the bathroom door, making sounds like sandpaper against the carpet. "Yes," a second reptilian voice said. "He draws them. Soon we will be strong." The thing slithered into the cafeteria with a cold hissing that might have been snake laughter. Annabeth looked at me. "We have got to get out of here." "You think I want to be in the girls' restroom? I mean the ship, Percy. We have to get off the ship." "Smells bad," Tyson agreed. "And dogs eat all the eggs. Annabeth right. We must leave the restroom and ship." I shuddered. If Annabeth and Tyson were actually agreeing about something, I figured I'd better listen. Then I heard another voice outside, one that chilled me worse than any monster's. "Only a matter of time. Don't push me, Agrius." It was Luke. Beyond a doubt, I could never forget his voice. "They're not pushing you," another guy growled. His voice was deeper and even angrier than Luke's. "I'm just saying, if the gamble doesn't pay off, it'll pay off," Luke snapped. "They'll take the bait. Now come on, we've got to get to the Admiralty suite and check on the casket." Their voices receded down the corridor. Tyson whimpered. "Leave now?" Annabeth and I exchanged looks and came to a silent agreement. "We can't," I told Tyson. "We have to find out what Luke is up to," Annabeth agreed. "And if possible, we're going to beat him up, bind him in chains, and drag him to Mount Olympus." On to Chapter 9. I have the worst family reunion ever. Annabeth volunteered to go alone since she had the cap of invisibility, but I convinced her it was too dangerous. Either we all went together, or nobody went. "Nobody," Tyson voted. "Please?" But in the end he came along, nervously chewing on his huge fingernails. We stopped at our cabin long enough to gather our stuff. We figured, whatever happened, we would not be staying another night aboard the zombie cruise ship, even if they did have $1,000,000 bingo. I made sure Riptide was in the top of my bag. I didn't want Tyson to carry everything, but he insisted. Annabeth told me not to worry about it. Tyson could carry 3 full duffel bags over his shoulder as easily as I could carry a backpack. We sneaked through the corridor, following the ship's "You Are Here" signs towards the Admiralty suite. Annabeth scouted ahead invisibly. We hid whenever somebody passed by, but most of the people we saw were just glassy-eyed zombie passengers. As we came up the stairs to Deck 13, where the Admiralty suite was supposed to be, Annabeth hissed, "Hide!" and shoved us into a supply closet. I heard a couple of guys coming down the hall. "You see that Ethiopian Draken in the cargo hold?" one of them said. The other laughed. "Yeah, it's awesome." Annabeth was still invisible, but she squeezed my arms. I got a feeling I should know that second guy's voice. "I hear they got 2 more coming," the familiar voice said. They keep arriving at this rate. Oh man, no contest. The voices faded down the corridor. That was Chris Rodriguez. Annabeth took off from her cabin turned visible. You remember, from cabin 11. I sort of recalled Chris from the summer before. He was one of those undetermined campers who got stuck in the Hermes cabin because his Olympian dad or mom never claimed him. Now that I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen Chris at camp this summer. What's another half-blood doing here? Annabeth shook her head, clearly troubled. We kept going down the corridor. I didn't need maps anymore to know I was getting close to Luke. I sensed something cold and unpleasant, the presence of evil. Percy, Annabeth stopped suddenly. Look. She stood in front of a glass wall, looking down into the multi-story canyon that ran through the middle of the ship. At the bottom was a promenade, a mall full of shops, but that's not what had caught Annabeth's attention. A group of monsters had assembled in front of the candy store. A dozen Lastrygonian giants like the one who'd attacked me with dodgeball, 2 hellhounds, and a few even stranger creatures, humanoid females with twin serpent tails instead of legs. Scythian Draconae, Annabeth whispered. Dragon women. The monsters made a semicircle around a young guy in Greek armor who was hacking at a straw dummy. A lump formed in my throat when I realized the dummy was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. As we watched, the guy in armor stabbed the dummy through its belly and ripped upward. Straw flew everywhere. The monsters cheered and howled. Annabeth stepped away from the window. Her face was ashen. Come on, I told her. The sooner we find Luke, the better. At the end of the hallway were double oak doors that looked like they must lead somewhere important. When we were 30 feet away, Tyson stopped. Voices inside. You can hear that far? I asked. Tyson closed his eyes like he was concentrating hard. Then his voice changed, became a husky approximation of Luke's. The prophecy ourselves. The fools won't know which way to turn. Before I could react, Tyson's voice changed again, becoming deeper and gruffer, like the other guys we heard talking to Luke outside the cafeteria. You really think the old horseman is gone for good? Tyson laughed. Luke's laughed. They can't trust him. Not with the skeletons in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was the final straw. Annabeth shivered. Stop that, Tyson. How do you do that? It's creepy. Tyson opened his eye and looked puzzled. Just listening. Keep going, I said. What else are they saying? Tyson closed his eye again. He hissed in the gruff man's voice. Quiet! Then Luke's voice whispering. Are you sure? Yes, Tyson said in the gruff voice. Right outside. Too late I realized what was happening. I still had time to say run when the doors of the stateroom burst open and there was Luke, flanked by 2 hairy giants armed with javelins, their bronze tips aimed right at our chests. Well, Luke said with a crooked smile, if it isn't my favorite cousins. Come right in. The stateroom was beautiful, and it was horrible. The beautiful part, huge windows curved along the back wall, looking out over the stern of the ship. Green sea and blue sky stretched all the way to the horizon. A Persian rug covered the floor. 2 plush sofas occupied the middle of the room, with a canopied bed in one corner and a mahogany dining table in the other. The table was loaded with food, pizza boxes, bottles of soda, and a stack of roast beef sandwiches on a silver platter. The horrible part? On a velvet dais at the back of the room lay a 10-foot-long golden casket, a sarcophagus engraved with ancient Greek scenes of cities in flames and heroes dying grisly deaths. Despite the sunlight streaming through the windows, the casket made the whole room feel cold. Well, Luke said, spreading his arms proudly. A little nicer than cabin 11, huh? He'd changed since the last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki pants, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be so unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model, showing off what the fashionable college-age villain was wearing to Harvard this year. He still had that scar under his eye, a jagged white line from his battle with the dragon, and propped up against the sofa was his magical sword, Backbiter, glinting strangely with its half-steel, half-celestial bronze blade that could kill both mortals and monsters. Sit, he told us. He waved his hands, and 3 dining chairs scooted themselves into the center of the room. None of us sat. Luke's large friends were still pointing their javelins at us. They looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 8 foot tall for one thing, and wore only blue jeans, possibly because their enormous chests were already shag-carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails, feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their trees were all pointed canines. Where are my manners? Luke said smoothly. These are my assistants, Agrius and Aureus. Perhaps you've heard of them. I said nothing. Despite the javelins pointed at me, it wasn't the bear twins who scared me. I'd imagined meeting Luke again many times since he tried to kill me last summer. I pictured myself boldly standing up to him, challenging him to a duel. But now that we were face to face, I could barely stop my hands from shaking. You don't know Agrias's and Aureus's story? Luke asked. Their mother. Well, it's sad, really. Aphrodite ordered the young woman to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of her maiden huntresses, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. When Artemis found out, she abandoned the girl in disgust. Typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another, and the poor humans get caught in the middle. The girl's twin sons here, Agrias and Aureus, have no love for Olympus. They like half-bloods well enough, though. For lunch, Agrias growled. His gruff voice was the one I'd heard talking with Luke earlier. His brother Aureus laughed, licking his fur-lined lips. He kept laughing like he was having. Aureus whimpered. He trudged over to the corner of the room, slumped onto a stool, and banged his forehead against the dining room, making the silver plates rattle. Luke acted like this was perfectly normal behavior. He made himself comfortable on the sofa and propped his feet up on the coffee table. Well, Percy, we let you survive another year. I hope you appreciate it. How's your mom? How's school? You poisoned Thalia's tree. Luke sighed. Right to the point, eh? Okay, sure I poisoned the tree. So what? How could you? Annabeth sounded so angry, I thought she'd explode. Thalia saved your life, our lives. How could you dishonor her? I didn't dishonor her, Luke snapped. The gods dishonored her. Annabeth, if Thalia was alive, she'd be on my side. Liar. If you knew what was coming, you'd understand. I understand you want to destroy the camp, she yelled. You're a monster. Luke shook his head. The gods have blinded you. Can't you imagine a world without them, Annabeth? What good is that ancient history you study? 3,000 years of baggage. The West is rotten to the core. It has to be destroyed. Join me. We can start the world anew. We could use your intelligence, Annabeth, because you have none of your own. His eyes narrowed. I know you, Annabeth. You deserve better than tagging along on some hopeless quest to save the camp. Half-Blood Hill will be overrun by monsters within the month. The heroes who survive will have no choice but to join us or be hunted to extinction. You really want to be on a losing team with company like that? Luke pointed at Tyson. Hey, I said. Traveling with a Cyclops, Luke chided. Talk about dishonoring Thalia's memory. I'm surprised at you, Annabeth. You of all people. Stop it, she shouted. I didn't know what Luke was talking about, but Annabeth buried her head in her hands like she was about to cry. Leave her alone, I said, and leave Tyson out of this. Luke laughed. Oh, yeah, I heard. Your father claimed him. I must have looked surprised because Luke smiled. Yes, Percy, I know all about that and about your plan to find the fleece. What were those coordinates again? 33I, 75, I2. You see, I still have friends at camp who keep me posted. Spies, you mean? He shrugged. How many insults from your father can you stand, Percy? You think he's grateful to you? You think Poseidon cares for you any more than he cares for this monster? Tyson clenched his fists and made a rumbling sound down in his throat. Luke just chuckled. The gods are so using you, Percy. Do you have any idea what's in store for you if you reach your 16th birthday? Has Chiron even told you the prophecy? I wanted to get in Luke's face and tell him off, but as usual, he knew just how to throw me off balance. 16th birthday? I mean, I knew Chiron had received a prophecy from the oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me. But if I reached my 16th birthday, I didn't like the sound of that. I know what I need to know, I managed, like who my enemies are. Then you're a fool. Tyson smashed the nearest dining chair to splinters. Percy is not a fool. Before I could stop him, he charged Luke. His fist came down towards Luke's head, a double overhead blow that would have knocked a hole in titanium, but the Bear twins intercepted. They each caught one of Tyson's arms and stopped him cold. They pushed him back and Tyson stumbled. He fell to the carpet so hard the deck shook. Too bad, Cyclops. Looks like my grizzly friends together are more than a match for your strength. Maybe I should let them. Luke, listen to me. Your father sent us. His face turned the color of pepperoni. Don't even mention him. He told us to take this boat. I thought it was just for a ride, but he sent us here to find you. He told me he won't give up on you, no matter how angry you are. Angry? Luke roared. Give up on me? He abandoned me. Percy, I want Olympus destroyed, every throne crushed to rubble. You tell Hermes it's going to happen too. Every time a half-blood joins us, the Olympians grow weaker and we grow stronger. He grows stronger. Luke pointed to the gold sarcophagus. The box creeped me out, but I was determined not to show it. So, I demanded, what's so special? Then it hit me what might be inside the sarcophagus. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Whoa, you don't mean he is reforming, Luke said. Little by little, we're calling his life force out of the pit. With every recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears. That's disgusting, Annabeth said. Luke sneered at her. Your mother was born from Luke's split skull, from Zeus's split skull, Annabeth. I wouldn't talk. Soon there'll be enough of the Titan Lord so we can make him whole again. We'll piece together a new body for him, a work worthy of the forges of Hephaestus. You're insane, Annabeth said. Join us and you'll be rewarded. We have powerful friends, sponsors rich enough to buy this cruise ship and much more. Percy, your mother will never have to work again. You can buy her a mansion. You can have power, fame, whatever you want. Annabeth, you can realize your dream of being an architect. You can build a monument to last 1,000 years, a temple to the lords of the next age. Go to Tartarus, she said. Luke sighed. A shame. He picked up something that looked like a TV remote and pressed a red button. Within seconds, the door of the stateroom opened, and 2 uniformed crew members came in armed with nightsticks. They had the same glassy-eyed look as the other mortals I'd seen, but I had the feeling this wouldn't make them any less dangerous in a fight. Ah, good. Security, Luke said. I'm afraid we have some stowaways. Yes, sir, they said dreamily. Luke turned to Orius. It's time to feed the Ethiopian draken. Take these fools below and show them how it's done. Orion glowed stupidly. Let me go too, Agrius grumbled. My brother is worthless. That Cyclops is no threat, Luke said. He glanced back at the golden casket, as if something were troubling him. Agrius, stay here. We have important matters to discuss. But, Orius, don't fail me. Stay in the hold to make sure the Draken is properly fed. Orius prodded us with his javelin and herded us out of the stateroom, followed by 2 human security guards. And we're almost done with the chapter, and we'll take up again tomorrow. I hope everybody is doing well and taking care of themselves. We're going to announce our schedule and when direct learning starts, probably sometime today. So pay attention, and we'll catch you later. And hey, Mr. Uncle, bye-bye.